My name is Jolie Booth and I am a theatre maker. I've been making theatre for 20 years now, and my main discipline is in a theatre technique called fooling. Fooling is all about working with the inner world and the outer world, and we call this your twisted twin. So the idea is that the fool is the zero at the top of the tarot deck, and when you're a child or you're in the moment and you're fully present, then you're untwisted. But at some point in your childhood, something happens that creates a judgment like I'm not good enough, or I'm alone, or I'm sad, or something that makes you twist and separates your inner and outer world, and you become a normal human being. And we all have this. But what we do with fooling is we learn to untwist this twist and once again be in the moment. So how do you share your inner world to your outer world and allow people to see into the universe? When you think about it, there's only one infinity. Infinity is infinity. So when you go out, at some point we all join up, and when you go in, at some point we all join up. And here we are now in the present, which is a present, it's a gift, and we're experiencing the present, and we're all here as infinite beings having a mortal and finite experience. I began to start to see how I believe that all theatre was initially created as a way of us learning how to deal with adrenaline, because as soon as atoms are observed, they behave differently. So they change from kind of vibrational ripples into waves. But there is only so many times you can be expressing yourself and performing and sharing your inner world before you begin to think, hang on a minute, isn't the whole thing a simulation? Isn't this whole thing just an improvisation and a performance? And we have a saying in fooling, which is create or be created. Our words are spells, and we spell our world into being. So when it comes to the invisible and the situation that we find ourselves in now, it is terrifying. So I'm very actively involved in activism. I'm involved in working with lots of different groups to creatively find ways to disrupt the normal narrative of business as usual, to question the way that we are putting profit before people and not living in a sustainable way, living in a linear way and not looking at the cyclical. And I've been doing lots of work over the years where I have been creating change through art, and I have seen how it's possible for that to happen. And when you start to look at the whole of life as a play and as a simulation and as an improvisation, you realise that you are able to write your own script. And when you start doing it, no one stops you. And it then becomes really apparent that, yeah, the powers that be and the laws that are written and the group hallucination that agrees that money is a thing and lives by this thing that we call reality was made up by a bunch of people. It was an improvisation that worked very well for them, and they've done very well out of it. And everything they say and do and everything that our whole infrastructure is built on is to keep in place the rules that keep them at the top and keep us in a place where we can't get ahead, where we could never get to where the 1% are. So we were the first people to be colonised, and the work that I'm now currently doing is all about us reconnecting with our Indigenous culture, which we have to start from scratch with. So inventing, rewriting, imagining mythology and folklore, and trying to reclaim and remember as much knowledge and wisdom that we can possibly still grasp before it's all lost into the annals of history, but also to start from scratch and begin again, writing our own traditional plays, our own traditional folk songs, festivals, all kinds of things as ways for us to connect to the land. Because the more that the people are connected to the land and feel ownership of the land, the more we question why that person has that Tudor red brick wall around that huge bit of land that they took through nefarious and bloody means. And we just agreed with it, and we went, well, we didn't. Probably people stood up against it, but it was 500 years ago and it didn't end well for them. And therefore, the last 500 years, all the laws and rules have been written to keep in place that they don't even need barbed wire, because we're so groomed to just be going along with the fact that that's Lord of the Manor and that's their bit of land, that we just go along with it and don't question it. So the work that I do now is all about questioning who owns the land and how do we connect with it deeper, and how do we rewrite this whole story so that we're not hurtling towards our demise, but are actually able to create a future that's full of hope and full of colour and full of splendour and full of celebration and full of connection and full of love. So from just a very short amount of research, I've ascertained that the Apollo line, or the Michael line, runs down through Europe, and the 3 art spaces, art centres that are working as part of this residential are almost exactly the same shape as Orion's belt, so in terms of the 3, so they kind of like the same shape as Orion's belt and the sword. The line goes through St. Malo, so I think we would do a collective exhibition at St. Malo, and that in St. Malo we would do some kind of ritual and ceremony that would send something along the Apollo line, and the this sword strike that was to change, to banish the devil, so change our way of being so that we stop being so materialistic and obsessed with money. And then also this toxic masculinity and jealousy. You know, comparison is the thief of joy. So how can we banish the thief of joy? How can we welcome in wonder and collaboration and harmony, rather than jealousy and materialistic and profit obsessed and not caring about people or caring about the planet? So a human, nature based, loving way of being that is created through some kind of spell, ceremony, magical happening at St. Malo, with this connection with things happening in these 3 places as well. And I'm going to explore further the connection to the stars. So already something has begun, and I'm really excited about it. And yeah, I would love to work with you so that I can begin to unpick and find local wisdom keepers who might know more mythology and stories, and find patterns that we can weave together into some fantastical, mythological, magical happening that sparks a new way of living and being, channeled through this earth energy line.